Hello, everybody. It's National Poetry Month. April is National Poetry Month. And so, what I thought I would do is give you a list of 8 books written in verse. Now, I talk a lot about how young adult and children's literature has changed from back when I was a child reading, looking for good books to read. And it's changed in a million ways. Here's one of them. I don't ever remember being aware of a book written in verse. I'm sure that there probably were some out there, but I never came across them. And now there are so many great books written in verse, specifically for middle grade and young adult audiences. And so I've got 8 that I want to share today. And I've got them kind of ranged in order according to the age range that I would suggest. The first 6 are clearly elementary school and up. And the last 2 are more aimed at high school, but we'll talk about that when we get there. So here's the first one. First, let's take a look at how beautiful this cover is. So this is Brown Girl Dreaming by Jacqueline Woodson. And I first came across this book because there was an excerpt in our 6th grade textbook at school, and so which I loved. And so I got a few copies of this book for our classroom, and the kids devoured them. And so this is a memoir, actually. Jacqueline Woodson is an award-winning author for middle grade kids, young adult kids, and so. But this is a memoir, and what's great about books written in verse is authors kind of can break free from what we're used to seeing from them. Just telling a story in a straight line with the expected character development and plot development and things like that, and they can kind of take a break and they can focus on smaller things, and it's just really beautiful. I want to kind of share a piece here. This is just from the middle of the text. Brooklyn rain. The rain here is different than the way it rains in Greenville. No sweet smell of honeysuckle, no soft squish of pine, no slip and slide through grass. Just mama saying, stay inside today, it's raining, and me at the window. Nothing to do but watch the gray sidewalk grow darker, watch the drops slide down the glass pane, watch people below me move fast, heads bent. It's beautiful stuff, right? And you get a whole book's worth of beautiful stuff. Love this book, Brown Girl Dreaming. The next one, Inside Out and Back Again, and this is written by an author named Tyne Ha Lai, and it's about a young girl named Ha who is born in Vietnam, and at the end of the Vietnam War, her family leaves Saigon for America, and they end up in Alabama. And so, first of all, I can't think of a bigger change, a bigger cultural change going from Vietnam to Alabama. And one of the cool things about this book that I really love is that when we think about that time, that era in American history, we think about American citizens, Vietnamese citizens desperately getting on helicopters, heading out of Saigon. That's what we think of, right? And in the first, in the opening pages of this book, she talks about how beautiful her childhood home is, and the fact that Vietnam was just a beautiful place to live before it was torn apart by war. And I really like that about this book. It gives us a glimpse into something that we often don't think about. And then what's cool is we see how her life changes, how she's adapting to her new home in Alabama, and the fact that a lot of people in Alabama are not happy to see them. But again, written in verse, really good book. Here's another one that's also got a historical aspect to it, Full Cicada Moon. I first read this book a couple years ago, and the main character, Mimi, here's why I was drawn to this book. Well, first I saw it in a book fair, and the cover made me pick it up. And then when I read about it, Mimi's father is Black and her mother is Japanese. And, so that's my kids. And so and it takes place in the 1960s. Mimi is infatuated with the space movement and NASA, and it's taking place right around the time of the moon landing. And it's a really great book, because again, there's some people, they're living in Vermont, and there's some people there in Vermont who are not happy with their mixed race family. But there's a teacher who saves the day. There's a teacher who sees some hope and some promise in Mimi, and that's something that I like too. So anyway, Full Cicada Moon, really good book. This is the newest book in the stack, and this is Other Words for Home by Jasmine Warga. And this is a great book. We're reading it this month for Stanford Project Lit, and this is it kind of reminds me a little bit of Inside Out and Back Again, because when we start out, Jude is the main character. She's a young girl living in Syria, and she talks about how much she loves being in Syria. Now, we know what's going on in Syria. We know that this is a war-torn nation, and has been so, by civil war for the last several years. But she shows it to us as, her corner of Syria is just where she happens to live, and she really likes it there, and her family is happy. But pretty early in the book, her parents decide that it's no longer safe where she is, and they have to move to Cincinnati. And that's a pretty deep transition that they have to make. And one of the things, because Jude has grown up loving American culture, listening to American music, watching American movies, and then when she gets to America, she realizes that a lot of people in America don't love her culture the way she has always loved ours. And so there's some painful points, but it's a really good book. Other Words for Home, Jasmine Warga. Check this out, please. If you've got a boy at home who loves basketball, doesn't want to read, The Crossover by Kwame Alexander. This is a really cool book. It's about these two brothers. Josh Bell is telling it. He's got a brother, Jordan Bell, which I always thought was kind of cool, because Jordan Bell is one of the best basketball players to come out of Long Beach in the last, 20, 30 years. So, but it's written in verse, and I want to share just a little snip about it. He's talking about his hair. Ode to my hair. If my hair were a tree, I'd climb it. I'd kneel down beneath and enshrine it. I'd treat it like gold and then mine it. Each day before school, I unwind it, and right before games, I entwine it. These locks on my head, I designed it. And one last thing, if you don't mind it, that bet you just made, I decline it. So Kwame Alexander, there are a lot of books that he has written. This is the first one that I read, The Crossover, and there's a sequel, Rebound, and also there's a graphic novel version of this one, The Crossover. But check this one out, Crossover. And I want to throw this one in too. Here's another one, because I love soccer. And this one, Kwame Alexander also, and it's called Booked. And again, this is about, there's a couple things that I really like about this. First of all, the boy Nick is a soccer player, and his father loves words. His father actually is a linguist and wrote his own dictionary. And one of the conflicts, minor conflicts between father and son, is that the father is always giving the son words to learn, and those words are sprinkled throughout the book. Just kind of an added layer of fun for me. But a really great book. Booked, Kwame Alexander. All right, so I would say Crossover and Booked are more like middle grade, middle school. Those first four, for sure, they could be elementary school. These last two, they're in my middle school classroom, and middle school kids pick them up and read them all the time. They're aimed at high school. There maybe is a little bit of language in there. The theme's a little bit more mature. Here's this first one, Long Way Down, Jason Reynolds. You've heard me talk about Jason Reynolds because he is maybe my favorite middle grade young adult author going today. So Long Way Down, and it's about this boy Will, and his older brother Sean has been shot and killed. And Will believes that he knows who has done it, and the code that Will has grown up with tells him that he needs to seek revenge for his brother. And what's cool about this book is that Will makes a decision. He knows where his brother keeps his gun. He gets his gun, and he's going to go and do what he feels like he needs to do. When he gets into the elevator, that's when things get strange. That's when things get interesting, because he gets in on the 7th floor, and each floor, the door opens, and someone comes in, a ghost comes in to kind of talk him through his decision until he gets down to the lobby and he has to go and make his decision. This is a really cool concept and a really cool book. And there's a couple things I wanted to share. A couple parts. Here's when bad things happen. When bad things happen, we can usually look up and see the moon, big and bright, shining over us. That always made me feel better. Like there's something up there beaming down on us in the dark. But the day before yesterday, when Sean died, the moon was off. Somebody told me once a month the moon blacks out and becomes new, and the next night be back to normal. I'll tell you one thing. The moon is lucky it's not down here, where nothing is ever new. Just really cool stuff. And long way down, Jason Reynolds. You got to read this. The last one, The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. The Poet X, main character, her name is Xiomara Batista. And she eventually takes this name, the Poet X, when she's performing her poetry, and it's about this high school girl who is, Xiomara is trying to, this is a story that's been told a bazillion times, right? She's trying to live her life. Her parents, specifically her mother, wants to kind of dictate how she lives her life. And so it's about that conflict in a lot of ways, but it's also about Xiomara trying to find her voice, trying to find who she is, trying to accept this gift that she has. And she has a twin brother, and her twin brother sees what's going on. Here's a little piece. What twin be knowing? As I'm getting ready for sleep, I'm surprised to see the crumpled poetry club flyer neatly unfolded and on my bed. It must have fallen out of my bag. Without looking up from the computer screen, Twin says in barely a whisper, "This world's been waiting for your genius a long time." My brother is no psychic, no prophet, but it makes me smile, this secret hope we share that we are both good enough for each other and maybe the world too. But when he goes to brush his teeth, I tear the flyer into pieces before Mommy can find it. Tuesdays, for the foreseeable future, belong to church, and any genius I might have belongs only to me. This is great stuff. This is a book that will stay with you for a long time. The Poet X, Elizabeth Acevedo. Check this book out. Check all these books out. And like I said, especially if you've got somebody at home who is reluctant to read, one of the secret bonuses of reading a book in verse is that you can take a book like this that's thick, right? And you can read it in one sitting. And there's something to that, especially if it's someone who's a reluctant reader. There's something to that, to being able to get through a book. Like it, yes, but finish it. So there you go. 8 great books for National Poetry Month. Please enjoy.